So Jeff, your company name is not easy.
Gibbs
So,
Giddin. You can forget the other four names.
okay, that's what we're doing. When is love going to be included there?
Well, we're trying to. I'm trying to get them to shorten it to just two names. So
Uh,
I'll forego my name if we can get just Gibbs Giddin. The rest is a
yeah,
mouthful.
yeah. So you specially, there's quite a few things that you do though. You do what construction law, you do business law, partnerships, HOA, CCNRs, all that kind of stuff. Is so it's you have like you're like a Swiss Army knife of things that you do. What else what do you lean into the most?
So I consider myself a transactional attorney. So
Right.
anything really based with contract, and a lot of what I do is primarily real estate, and then I have a related corporate practice that developed really because clients need both, and there's so
Hmm.
much crossover between the two. I have clients, buying just a single family home, but they might be a celebrity, so they want to hold it in LLC.
Right.
Well, the LLC, that's technically corporate work. Or I
Hmm.
have clients, we represent manufacturers and different businesses, but now they need a new office space or they want to buy a new industrial building. And now we get into real estate. So I
Hmm.
really do both of those areas just to service our clients who, whether they know it or not, they usually need help from both the corporate and real estate standpoints.
Hmm. And I don't know many people that have like a niche working with HOA and stuff. Is that something that you do a lot, or because I have it in my notes that you do some HOA work too, some transactional, that kind of
Our
thing?
firm does a fair amount. We normally represent HOAs, and what we'll do a lot of is kind of helping update their governing documents. So
Hmm.
many HOAs were formed 10, 20, 30 years ago, and the laws
Right.
on HOAs change every single year. So it becomes a big deal, and they want to make sure they're in compliance
Hmm.
to update those HOAs. So that's what we end up getting a lot of business from and helping clients just make sure that they're in compliance.
Okay, great. Well, that's those are a few of the docs that it's against our team and office policy to even look at them. So others, if we're in escrow and someone wants to, they send the HOA docs over to us, and I said, nope, 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 not to me. It goes through escrow to them because we're not going to miss a document or I'm not going to accidentally miss one thing because guys like you understand them. Now, I look at them and you think you understand it, but they're really complicated.
There's a lot of that, especially with title reports too, where you have these underlying documents, and one could be CC&Rs, other could be easements. And as an agent or broker, you don't always want the liability of looking
Mm-hmm.
at it. You could look at it as a favor, but then transaction closes, something happens, and they go, "Well, I thought you looked at it for me." And you're like, no, 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 that wasn't me. You should have had your attorney. So one of the benefits that we add is we assume that liability because
Mm-hmm.
we are telling clients we're looking at it for you. No, it's not your
Mm-hmm.
agent, your broker, your accountant. We're not doing it. They're not doing that.
No.
You're hiring us so that we can look at it and tell you, yes, everything looks okay, or highlight risks for you so that you can make sure that you want to buy this property with the easement running down the middle of it and you're okay with the risks that imposes.
So, yeah, I one of the few times that I was brought into court is because I represented a buyer, and I told them to review the docs and stuff, which they did. And I told them I'm not qualified to, and it's a liability. And it turns out that the seller had not disclosed anything, and there was things included, like in the minutes and whatnot, about the roof, that kind of thing. And but then it turns out that some of that stuff wasn't in the documents. And so when they were deposing me, they said, "So did you review the docs? The HOA docs and the CCNRs minutes?" I said, "No." And they said, "Why?" So because those are legal documents, and I'm not qualified to do that. That's for an attorney to do. I facilitate the deal. And the judge says, "I totally agree with you. Did you do this, and this?" And I said, "Yes, sir." And he goes, "Okay, great, get out of here." Then it was appealed. I get in there, different judge. He doesn't know the contracts, and he goes, "So what did you do on the deal?" I said, "Well, I did the TDS, SBQ, Avid, blah, blah. I went through everything with my client. Well, did you check out the HOA docs?" I said, "No." And he goes, "Then what good are you?" What?
Wow.
What good are you? I was like, "But sir, that's not the way it works." So I went back to my office and said, "No, you're doing it right." And our attorney says you should not be reviewing that. They should be. So anyway, that's one of the reasons you're so valuable.
Well, you're absolutely right because one, as a agent, you don't want to practice law without a license, which is why
No.
these forms designed by the California Association of Realtors, why they have specific blanks you can fill in, but you're not really editing it. because you don't
Right.
want to cross that line. So what you said is perfect advice. You don't want to review those things. You often want to send an email to your client that you could point to that says, I'm not reviewing these. I'm sending them to you. Please review them, or have your legal counsel review them, so
Right.
that when you go to court like you did, you are golden, because you didn't do
Right.
anything you're not supposed to do. And you're actually doing your client a service, because you're telling them to get the right advice from someone that looks at these and can tell them, because it's not
No.
your job to know how to do that.
Yeah, I totally agree. And that's what with newer agents, they do that. And I'm going, no, don't. Same with permits. So do not take those into your possession. And you got to, connect them with an expediter or someone who can really read them. Because I have been on my own property. I went down to the city to get permits, check out permits. And then I left, came back a week later. They weren't there. I'm like, how does this even happen that I was just there the week before? So two areas stay away from. Get a great
Yep.
attorney, worth the weight in gold. So I'm sure you've got some great real estate challenge hell stories. So do you have one you want to share with us?
I've got one. I got a good one, especially
Yeah.
for real estate agents. We,
Mm-hmm.
as attorneys, we're not always involved in real estate aspects,
Mm-hmm.
residential, but every so often we'll get involved in the entire deal. We had a
Mm-hmm.
client who was buying was a very large home in Orange County, and next to it, he was buying the house for his daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Lucky kid, right?
Yeah.
Went through the transaction with this broker, everything. Um, Happened to close in March of 2020. So you can guess, something's going to happen. This is
Yeah.
real. And
Go on.
it is, many agents know, as part of the transaction, if you have a foreign seller,
Mm-hmm.
you have to, the escrow, or really, it's really the buyer's obligation as part of the Foreign Investment and Real Property Tax Act, if I got that
Mm-hmm.
right. You have to withhold, a certain percentage of the money. Both
Mm-hmm.
federal and then California has a related amount.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this transaction, escrow withheld it, did everything they're supposed to do. And about a year later, our client, the buyer, gets a notice from the IRS that says they never received the money.
Mm-hmm.
And he was slapped with a $60,000 or so penalty.
Oh my God.
Reaches out to escrow, says what happened. They blow
Mm-hmm.
him off, no response, no response. Finally, we get involved, and they send us a check. They say, well, this doesn't show that you sent it. Do you have anything that's postmarked? And they have nothing. And we say,
Uh-huh.
well, look, the IRS is blaming us, and you guys are the one that obviously collected the money. If you can't show us that you sent it, it's your obligation to make this right. They
Mm-hmm.
turn around, they blame the IRS. They say, we never sent, we sent it. If they didn't get it, that's the IRS's problem. And
Mm-hmm.
our client is, that's a lot of money. He says, what do I do? So more back and forth, back and forth. We finally basically threaten litigation,
Mm-hmm.
and then they start responding, but still say, we sent it. It's not our problem.
Did they
So
get a clearance of it, or I mean, did
they
they
had
follow
not.
up?
That was the issue. They couldn't show us that it withdrew, the money was withdrawn from their account. They couldn't show any postmarked envelope. All
Mm-hmm.
they showed was a check, and the cynic in us said, you could have just wrote that check. We
Right.
want to believe you, but the IRS is saying this didn't happen.
You're so nice. We want to believe you.
We want to believe you, right? So, but then, this keeps going on and on. Probably another 6 months, 9 months passes. Well, now the IRS is tacking on interest and penalties. So now the amount's over $100,000 that's owed. They don't
Uh-huh.
care who pays it; they just want their money. So finally, we initiate arbitration,
Mm-hmm.
mediation under, you know, we they're sometimes part of the car form and with their own escrow agreement. Back and forth, back and forth. Finally, it ends about 2 years later. We got them to pay back all the fees and interest penalties that were owed to the
Mm-hmm.
IRS. Thankfully, they had insurance, so the insurance covered it. And our client basically came out where he should have been at the very beginning. Painful, not fun process, but we were able to make it right. And going forward, he is always going to, he investor as well. So his number one thing now, to escrow, did you send in the money?
Mm-hmm.
Your confirmation that you paid the FERPTA, because
Right.
it's $100,000 for nothing you did wrong. And most buyers, sellers, they sign the form, but they don't even really know what they're signing or what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Um, this is the negative side. If you don't pay attention, if you don't understand it, what could
Mm-hmm.
happen?
Interesting. So what surprises me too with that particular case is why they wouldn't just say, "Hey, look here's a copy of the check, but here's a copy of the cleared check and showing that it has been removed from the account." But did they ever show that it had been actually been delivered?
No, they couldn't show it, and that was our point.
$70,000 they can't show.
They couldn't show it, and they
Oh,
said, it was our accounting software, and it was postmarked, but we don't have it. So either they didn't do it, or their
yeah,
record keeping was horrible, and the IRS just never got it. But in either of those circumstances, it wasn't our client's fault because he's relying on
correct.
escrow. It's escrow or IRS, and we said, we'll cooperate you if you want to fight with the IRS. But they couldn't show it, and that was the problem. Right around where everybody went home from COVID.
Hmm.
So maybe they thought they did, but it never ended up happening. And a year later, IRS doesn't have their money.
So are they required to follow up to consider or to confirm that it was delivered and received, or
They're
is it
not.
what's the requirement on the side of escrow?
The escrow's requirement is to, if they are the one withholding the money, their requirement is to send it into the IRS.
Hmm.
So that was part of their argument is, yeah, we don't have to follow up. We've sent it, we've collected it on your behalf, buyer, but they couldn't even show that it was withdrawn. They couldn't show a
Wow.
postmarked envelope. So it was all those little pieces where if they had one more, maybe it would have gone the other way, unfortunately for our client, but they couldn't make really a good faith effort to show that they had sent this in.
You would think they'd look at their account and go, "Oh, there's $70,000." You'd think that someone would be, on notice, say, "By the way, there's $70,000 that's not supposed to be here, and it's not reconciled."
Exactly.
They,
It's not $10. It's a lot of money. It's you think you would notice that it's missing or not missing, or you have $70,000 extra,
Mhm.
but no.
So if I owned that company, I would definitely that would be a new product, just the new way of doing things. Because when I started the business, anytime something went wrong, like the 9A city report's a big thing to get. You're not supposed to close without it. You can, but you're not supposed to. It's against our office and team policy, even though escrow will allow it. But there's a bunch of things that can go wrong there. And so I remember the first time we come up on the close of escrow, and they said, "Where's the 9A city report?" Well, we just ordered it, okay, but we can't close without it. So after that, I was like, nope, nope, nope. That's never happening again. So we front load everything. So before we even go to escrow, before we even launch, they order the 9A city report. They do all disclosures. We do all the disclosures ahead of time. We get the SI ahead of time because there's been times. One time we got in, I realized, wow, they can't actually sell because we looked at the SI and saw it was owed and everything. So it was really interesting that they didn't have that in place.
I hope they do now. Because they're easy fixes. You send
Hmm.
it, you scan the envelope, scan the check, you put it in the file.
Yeah,
It doesn't happen.
and then there's a follow up, with the CPA or whoever's doing their books.
Yeah. So you can
So,
imagine my client, hence the name of the show. What the hell's going on?
uh,
I didn't. It's not my fault. So
huh? All right. Well, they're fortunate they got you, and then they got attorney's fees too.
got it all back.
I love it. That's a good story. All right. Do you have another one for me?
I got one more. This one's more on the commercial side, but it's
Sure.
kind of highlights, what the right advisor can do with creative solutions. We had a client, they were buying, and I'll show you the value of real estate in other states,
Mm-hmm.
a 500,000 square foot industrial property on 100 acres. What do you think that's going to cost in California?
I wouldn't. I have no idea where to stop.
Tens of millions,
20,
right?
30, 40 million. I don't know.
It's in Ohio, so they got it for $9 million.
Okay. All right.
That much land and building. I can't imagine what that costs in Los Angeles.
Right.
They manufacture doors and they had a business in the state. So
Mm-hmm.
perfect solution for them. So negotiate the price, get through escrow, as you should do with all real estate, but especially if properties by, dry cleaners and environmental issues. They do a
Mm-hmm.
phase one, which is when you evaluate environmental conditions,
Mm-hmm.
and it comes back, a portion of the property comes back dirty.
Mm-hmm.
They do a phase two, which is a further investigation, and there's all types of chemical contaminants and things in the soil. As a commercial, or really any real estate investor, you don't want any type of environmental concern
Right.
because the EPA and state versions of the EPA, they don't care who did it. They can go back in the chain of title, and if you didn't do all your diligence, say you're responsible, you're responsible. But the client really wanted the property. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it was a perfect fit. So come up with the different ideas. Hey, should we lower the purchase price and you can fix the contamination? Then the
Mm-hmm.
concern arose, well, Yes, but how do we know here's the price on the, to fix it today? What if there's a future concern?
Hmm.
I'm very conservative. I don't want that risk.
Right.
Um, okay, should we back out of the deal? No, but we really want the property. More back and forth. So the final solution that we came up with is we were able, based on where the contamination was, instead of just throwing in the towel, getting rid of this pretty good investment,
Right.
we were able to do a lot line adjustment,
I was
carve that
thinking that.
into a different parcel. The seller kept that. We
Hmm.
reduced, 100 acres. This was on maybe five. We don't need
Hmm.
all that land. Reduce the purchase price accordingly. We get our property. They indemnify us for anything that maybe gets across, but we had pretty good buffer.
Hmm.
They were committed to remediating that portion uh, themselves.
Hmm.
Our client got the property. Both seller got their proceeds, could move on. Happy, happy client.
That's great. I like that. Then did they end up clearing it up and then it would have been interesting if they got it cleared up and then there was then your client would have the first right of refusal to buy it once it was clean.
That's another great addition. We didn't go that far. It was relatively we did it in the fall, so they're still working on it.
Hmm.
Um, but the client, it just happened to be about 100 acres. They didn't really want or need that extra. They probably only needed 30, 40 acres, but it's
Hmm.
Ohio. It's not like California. There's plenty of space where this was. So
Hmm.
they ended up being happy, avoided, not buying a property that would make a good investment, especially for their business,
Hmm.
um, just by not giving up at the outset and thinking through, hey, what can we do to fix this? Are there reductions in price? Are there other creative ways? And it end up, working out for everyone.
I love it. So, do you have a, I know it's a Friday night and we're all getting in holiday mode. So, um, do you have, before you wrap up, a charity or a cause or anything that you would like us to shine light on?
Not a charity per se, but a cause. I
Hmm.
have, like you, or mine are littler, but three kids, 4,
Hmm.
6, and 8, and
Ouch. That's a
yeah,
lot.
we're busy.
Yes.
And I got talked into joining the PTA at their school about 2 years ago, and I am the financial secretary, so I deposit all the checks.
Uh-huh.
And I had no idea, especially in public schools, what a PTA funds. And the kids at the school, they are able to have music classes and a chorus because of the
Mm-hmm.
PTA. They're
Uh-huh.
able to have art class. It funds field trips. It funds an extra teacher so the class sizes are smaller.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have children or grandchildren, really, looking at the schools, the PTA, that is where, every year we kind of donate money, extra money to the PTA now, just knowing what it goes for and what an impact that I was able to see firsthand to kind of make elementary school that much more educational and fun for the kids.
That's great. That's great. We don't do specifically that. Of course we support the school, but with us, we found that the scouts are such a good part of building the community at the school and church. And it gets the kids off their electronics. It gets them out. Like my 17-year-old is about to become Eagle, and he's going to go on a cavalcade. So it's a 10-day horsebacking ride in Philmont, and I'm going
That's
like,
neat.
how cool, And we go to all these things. So that's why, like, I know that you've heard about our Scout Poker Night fundraiser, like the one we just did. If that's where we put a bunch of effort, is making sure, okay, let's get the kids doing stuff, other than all this crap that they're going to want to do. It's like, let's get them off their phones and laughing and joking, getting all muddy and sweaty. And even the girls are doing it now. So you got the boys and girls having a great time, very healthy.
It's great just to get outside. It's great.
It's key. And you got a bunch of like-minded parents that are there to just, to support each other. And so, keep an eye on each other's kids in case, So the bottom line is it's great because the kids, when the parents can't make it, I send pictures and say, oh, hey, Mr. So-and-so. And you show them playing tetherball, show them, shooting guns or, whatever it happens to be. And it's just really fun. So
Great.
that's one of the things I like to do. Well, listen, thanks for being here. I really appreciate it. I told you it's going to be short and sweet.
Oh, my pleasures. I'll always like talking real estate.